Right off the bat, Manisha Priyam, with what you are witnessing right now, there is this, of course, massive politicking around the role revision exercise that is taking place. What do you reckon could be the ramifications of it politically?
So I do think that what should have been an exercise in, as one of the countdown to the conduct of free and fair polls in Bihar, which are due in a couple of months from now, just ahead of the festive season. I do think there's a lot of noise around this, and I wouldn't call it politicking at this point of time. It's an issue of public anxiety because it's become a train where all must change. Nobody quite understands as to what is the fate of the paper they've given. Remember, in poorer states such as Bihar, the state that I belong to, having a voter ID card by itself is considered a matter of comfort, a matter of belonging, and where it's a land of dispossession, landholdings are very small. Even the so-called rich, even people like me, actually don't own much land. So for us, the sense of belonging is कि हमारा घर यहाँ है. Now, I think the one thing that I sense amongst the people is the sense of discomfort, the unease as to what is going to be our fate, what is being asked of us. So I see, forget the politicking, I see almost every political party at the grassroots level in villages coming around to people and saying, "आपका कुछ नहीं होगा, आप घबराइए मत." Now, what is the process that has to be gone into? Is the time adequate? Is this paper adequate? Why am I being asked to do all this? So I think forget the political parties. The election commission does have a responsibility to political parties, but the election commission needs to speak to the people of Bihar and needs to make them understand what is the process
No,
they're
you're right
going through.
there.
You cannot
True.
shirk this off by saying, "Oh, he's doing politicking." What will political parties do except politicking? And let
No,
me
fair
tell
point.
you, yeah,
No, fair
sure.
point, Manisha ji. The fact is, number one, the Election Commission had time that the EC came out, addressed a press conference, allaying fears, for more than anyone, the voters there, because we have had ground reporters over the course of the last 2 weeks constantly picking up on what you speak of, which is voter anxiety. The politics around it, understandable right now. How it will impact the polls is a different question. But Sanjay Kumar, and I want to bring Amitabh Tiwari into this conversation first. About 61 lakh voters are at risk of disenfranchisement. That in itself, Sanjay Kumar, if you look at the larger number in terms of the entire electorate of the state of Bihar, is huge.
So certainly, you have already cited the number. Roughly, there is an estimate that we have 7.5 or 7.4 crores voters. And if you look at out of that, 60 names of 60 lakh voters are going to be stuck. So this is a sizable number. And all the calculations suggest if you divide it by the number of constituencies, assembly constituencies, it amounts to roughly 22, 23,000 voters per assembly constituency. In a tight contest like what we had in 2020 assembly elections, where the defeat and the victory margin for the entire state was few thousand votes. This can be very, very decisive. Getting the name of 61 lakh voters stuck is going to be very crucial when the elections takes place in a couple of months' time.
Amitabh Tiwari, would you want to weigh in on this? Because, with what we started off, the politics around it, noises now for the first time coming in from the Gathbandhan, suggesting that if this continues, there's going to be a boycott of polls. I want to just tell our viewers, all of this is taking place in the backdrop of the top court hearing the matter. The entire SIR, the special intensive role revision in Bihar, is being challenged by multiple agencies along with political parties in the top court of the country. So that verdict still awaited. But Amitabh Tiwari, would you want to weigh in on this?
No, essentially, it has been a controversial issue, and I think, but the politics has moved beyond now the identity documents required and whether we need Aadhaar or not. The politics has now boiled down to the number of deletions. However, two, three things are very pertinent here is that out of the 61 lakh people who have been deleted or whose names are proposed to be deleted, 18 have dead according to the election commission and 28 lakhs have moved permanently out of the state. So see, unless the opposition proves or has this inkling that a majority portion or significant number of people out of this 46 lakh people have not died or are alive and or have not moved out of the state, I think then it's a very normal deletion, correct? Because actually the number of people, or rather the number of people who die and people who are normally not resident are excluded from the voter list in any summary revision. The argument could be that why would you need a a special intensive revision if you just had to remove people who have died and people who have moved out? Because
Which was
ideally
already done in
this should
January this
have
year.
been, yeah, ideally this should have been removed in a summary revision itself. So were these people alive, these 18 lakh, when they voted in 2024, or have these people died in this last, let's say, 1 year? Were these people alive
But Amitabh ji, not
in
just 1 year,
2020?
because a summary revision took place in January 2025. It
The,
concluded then. So we are actually
the,
talking about just a couple of months from then.
Correct. So it can be an error that they were dead, but perhaps still remained on the rolls. So if they remained on the rolls, did they vote, etc.? So it's a very complex exercise now. Now the election commission, of course, needs to put a list out of who are the people who are going to be excluded or proposed to be excluded, and needs to transparently share it with all the political parties, that if they have issues or if they can bring in people who have been illegitimately removed from the list, they can be brought back to the list, because the number C is huge. However, if you trickle it down to per booth, so per seat is around 22 to 23,000, which means per booth is 70-75 people who are likely to be excluded, correct? And with the
But that is, you know, but
ground
that
presence
is,
of RJD,
Amitabh ji, if we are unilaterally addressing it booth by booth, but ultimately that's not what's happening on ground. Empirical evidence right now suggests by our reporters that there are certain areas where there is higher scale of disenfranchisement than others.
that's what I'm saying. This list has to be made public, correct? Then we'll come to know out of which assembly segment these voters are, which region these voters are, which caste group these voters are. And then the not only the people but also the political parties uh, need to have time to challenge this. Now, that's the bigger question, whether they have the time or not, because now we have a window of less than 3 months, and that is what the Supreme Court is likely to decide upon on
Right.
July 28th. But what I'm trying to say is that this 46 lakh people, if they have moved out on and or are dead, then anyways, whether they remained on the electoral roll or not, would not have made any difference on the turnout if these exclusions are genuine.